This again live. So if you are here today, I really appreciate it. We have an outstanding guest for you, Lawrence Guy. You may know him as a Super Bowl champion 2018, but today we're going to talk about something else. He's also a big time fisherman, and we're going to be talking a lot about fishing, and that is going to be perfect for all of you because today is cold everywhere. And so, unless you're a total animal in the panhandle of Florida or in Louisiana or Texas, you could be fishing in the snow in the panhandle of Florida. Wow, how about that? I saw all the videos of it snowing on the beach. That's incredible. I don't know that I've ever seen that in my lifetime. I'm sure it's happened before, but we did not have the advent of social media and everyone having a phone in their pocket, being able to take videos. So I that was new to me. I don't know that I've seen snow on the beach. If you have, drop one, drop a comment in the comments there and let me know what year you saw snow on the beach in Florida. That would be interesting. All right, we're going to get started with Lawrence here in just a second. Just want to tell you about the YouTube channel. We've been doing a lot of work on the YouTube channel because putting shorts on the podcast channel kind of messed it all up a little bit. And the shorts are doing great, but it really did mess up the long form. So what we have done is we have moved all of the long form podcasts to their own YouTube page called Tom Rowland Podcast, full links. It's the only, if you search Tom Rowland Podcast, that's the only one that's going to pop up. We're changing on the name of the other ones to TRP Shorts and TRP How to Tuesday. But if you're looking for the long form podcast, which is this, that's where you will find it on YouTube. And then we're having some fun with this live format. So if you're here live, please drop some questions for Lawrence in the comments, and we will definitely get to those. But right now, we're going to bring Lawrence in and talk to you. Lawrence, what's up? How are you today?
I'm doing good. And yourself?
Doing fantastic. Before we were talking about dogs. How many dogs do you have?
I have 4 dogs.
Four?
Yeah, 4. I got a pit bull, Maltese, a toy Maltese, and a Saint Berdoodle. And it goes the Maltese is 13, the toy Maltese is 12, a pit bull is 11, and the Berdoodle is I want to say like 14 weeks right now.
So have you always been a dog lover, dog family?
Always, I loved it. So I grew up with a pit bull, and when I was having kids, and before that, we had a thing before that. I told my wife, I said, "Hey, like these are going to be our best friends, and when we have kids, the kids are going to love the dogs, and they're going to grow up with them. It's going to be that memory they're always going to have." And once we did it, we're like, boom, let's just get the pit bull, and all 4 of my kids. I got 4 kids. All 4 of them love my pit bull, jump on her, do everything you know in a man, and the dog just takes it. So we're like, we got to get another big one to see how that works out.
Pit bulls can be very sweet. I lived with a pit bull in college. My college roommate had a pit bull. His name was Brutus, and sweet dog. Also could be tough, could be a mean dog, but it was a sweet dog. I mean, to the people that, to its family, it was a very, very sweet dog, but it was also a protector. You could see that. You could see it.
Right now, like she's very sweet with us, but you can see when somebody's different in the house, she'll sit on the stairs for nobody could go upstairs.
Mm-hmm.
But her name is Bubbles, so I kind of people off with that one. I'm like, hey, I'm gonna bring Bubbles out, and then they'll be like, oh yeah, go ahead and bring Bubbles out, and they're like, what is that?
Bubbles. That's like on the Trailer Park Boys. They got a Bubbles on Trailer Park Boys. So how old are your kids?
7, 5, 3, and 1.
3. Okay. And so one of the things, like, your people reached out and we're talking about fishing, and one of your big um, purposes in life these days is getting kids into fishing, and it starts with your own kids. So tell me about your experience with fishing. Like when you were a kid, who brought you into fishing? Who taught you how to fish?
Well, my uncle's a big fisher, but I grew up in Vegas, so it wasn't a lot to do. So we went out there here and there. But as the time went, we had certain friends go to a park, and we said we're going to go fishing at a park. You just join. but it didn't come until probably later on in life, about my late 20s, where I was like, I want to really pick this back up because it's just really relaxing. I did a couple of fishing trips when I was younger in the league, and it was just a fun experience between your friends, the people on board. You learn new tricks, and I just grew from there. Then I had one off season. I had a couple of fishing rods just sitting here, and I was like, you know what? I have a lake in my back of my house. Let me just go out there and just cast out and literally learn how to do this better. And it just grew from there. As they say, I went from one fishing rod to like 6 fishing rods. I went from braided line to regular line to weighted line. And it is kind of just grew. And when it came to my son, he just saw me out there one day and he was just like, I want to do it with you. So as everybody does as a parent, I cast out, I caught, hooked one on, and I let him reel it in, and we just kept doing it for a while. Then all of a sudden, I was like, you know what, you need your own rod. So I started off with a regular button rod where he could learn how to do it, and he picked it up in like 30 minutes. And I was like, you're really talented at this. Then I got him a spinning rod, and I was like, okay, this is just a little bit more complicated, where you could catch so much more because it goes a little bit farther. And as we just grew onto it, my daughter came out. We just had like a joyful thing because when you look at it, spending time with the family is probably the biggest thing that you could have. And fishing is about time, right?
Mhm.
And that time with the kids is something you just can't get back. And I just remember when I was little, going out there here and there and it's fishing. You sit out there for hours. You just don't know how long it goes until you catch that one fish, and all of a sudden your relative comes and like, hey, it's a small one. Let's cast it back out and see if we
Mhm.
can get a bigger one. And it's
So when you were a kid and you were going to that park, what kind of fish were you catching?
at that time, I don't even know. I was just catching.
Probably bass and catfish, maybe bluegills.
Well, it'll probably be more bluegills out in that area. There were some catfishes, just we didn't get them. Bass, it wasn't really bass. Not that much. In my area, I got bass, longmouth, peacock, you name it. It's
So
all.
you're in Florida?
Yeah, I'm in Florida. I'm in South Florida.
Okay. What part of South Florida?
That Fort Lauderdale area.
Okay, Fort Lauderdale, nice. And you do have peacocks there. Do you have peacocks in your lake?
Yeah.
Awesome.
If I go throw out a rod right now, I'm gonna catch like 3, 4 peacocks.
Uh-huh.
Like it was a nonstop. At one point, I used a fishing app to identify the weight, tag them, and whatnot, if I could show people because I catch and release. And by that 20th peacock, I was like, I'm not going to just take a picture of this anymore. Like,
They
no,
all look the same.
it's all the same. And when my son catches them, they're all new for him. So it's amazing.
Are there any other exotic species in that lake?
We just got the bluegill, we got catfish, we got the longmouth in there, we got sharkfish.
The
There's,
shark?
yeah, there's some other stuff in there that I just can't. I see it, but I don't catch them.
Huh.
It is taunts me. I say flow by, I'm like, oh, that's a big guy. I'm like, I'm gonna get it, and it just looks at me, and I'm like, ah, man.
Yeah, well, I wonder what that is. What you called it a sharkfish? What do you think? What is that? Do
I
you
don't
know?
know what it is. It is. I just see the back of it. It's
Okay.
glowing. And it's about 30 pounds. It is
Wow.
monstrous fish, and I'm just like, and there's about a couple of them that go out because you see the longmouth in there, but you just see this big one. And I'm just like, bro, I don't know what you are, but you're taunting me because it is flows right past you, and I'm like, it wants me to catch it and release it, but it just won't bite.
Yeah. So with your kids, are you fishing just mostly in your lake behind your house, or are you taking them to see some different types of fishing as well?
Right now, I'm just doing the in behind the house because I wanted to get a little bit more comfortable with the rod, and build their patience up.
Mhm.
Because fishing is all about patience. You sit out there 3, 4 hours, not catch anything. In the last 2 minutes, you catch something, or you just don't catch anything. So as their patience gets built up a little bit more, because this was my 5-year-old, then I'll take him out and we go a little deep water, or we just go on just by a dock and just go out into the ocean real quick and see what we could do. But as we know with fishing, is not more than skill, it's more than luck sometimes, but it comes down to the fact that you want to just enjoy the time. And I don't want him to be in a place where we're out there for 2 hours and he's not enjoying the time. So we're building that up where he
Right.
can sit there and enjoy the experience.
That's super important in my experience. I got 3 kids myself, and as a fishing guide, I would take a lot of people with kids. But with my own kids, I was very, very careful about what I called leaving something in the tank, right? Like if you take them out, do it in a way that you can go for a very short period of time. You can keep their interest, and then while they're still interested, leave. Like to where they're like, no, I don't want to leave. Okay, that's the perfect time to leave, right? As opposed to some of the things that I've seen where people take a kid fishing and they go do a type of fishing that is hard. It's very difficult. Bone fishing or permit fishing or tarpon fishing or something. You know, a good day's catching one, and they take a kid that's too young for that, and the kid is just asleep on the bottom of the boat. They're not having a good time at all, and you know, I feel like you got to keep the action. And if the action slows down, it's fine to be out there and help them with their patience and all that, like you're talking about, but to a point, right? Like, how do you know when it's time to go in?
I look at him, and once he starts saying, "Hey, can I play with your rod?" I'm like, it's time to come in. And we're waiting. Like, I think this summer that I'm going to take him out. I know a couple people in Tampa that go out there fishing. When I done some spinner shark fishing, catch and release, and I was just like, we could go out there because it's exciting and it's really fast. But he gives me a look. He taggles and he looks at me, and then he starts playing it and with the fishing lures, and I'm like, I said we're good. Then once I catch that one, as soon as he catches one, I'm like, we're good. We got to go in. He said, well, what about everybody else? I'm like, nah, it's time. I said, you just got to catch one, and we could go in. Then he enjoys it and he wants to go back out. But really, in the summer, that's when we're out there, and he's out there consistently, just enjoying his time, trying to make sure he doesn't jump in the lake.
Right.
He's like, can I just go grab it right now? Like I said, because I said, your mom be very mad at me if you come in this house full of mud.
Yeah, just like your doodle. That's not gonna. It's like a wet mop. That's cool. So what do you think as far as fishing goes, and the time that you're having with your kids? What do you think the biggest lessons that they're learning out there with you are?
I want to say it's just patience. It's patience and respect for what you're doing. Because when it comes down to anything at life, you have to be patient and realize on your skills. You're not going to always catch something, and you're not always going to get the biggest fish. Sometimes it's the little ones, and like I tell them, the little wins are big wins at the end of the day. And when we sit there and we get to enjoy this bond, I just want to emphasize that we're here together, right? Because we kind of lose that when we're raising kids. Time flies, and as you know, time flies. They're not little always, and you're always trying to build those little things in to your children's mind that we were there doing this. We're there having fun, enjoying it, and this is how you built this skill. Because at the end of the day, you're building skill, you're building relationship, you're building respect, you're building time throughout the process. And in reality, the process takes a while because you can't catch a fish without the process, without the line, without the reel, without your lure, without your bait. You're never gonna sit there and just throw something out there and catch it. It's a process up to it.
So you were an athlete at the absolute highest level, Super Bowl champion on a Super Bowl champion team, playing with some of the best people. You're playing with Tom Brady. How, like, when you talk about that, it sounds a lot like the way somebody would explain how you become an outstanding athlete, basically how you do anything in life. But what parallels do you see with fishing and football?
Well, like I said, it's the process for me. Um, when it comes to football, you do a lot more training, right? You run, you study film, write notes, you do everything like that. When it comes to fishing, it's kind of the same thing. It's a process of how you cast your reel out there, how you tie your knots, how you do this, and you can see if you skip the process, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you look at sports altogether, when you skip processes, the process of how you lead up and doing something, it shows. You can show in game, show in practice. Same thing with fishing. When you skip the process of doing something, all of a sudden you don't got that bait no more because your knot wasn't good enough, or your line broke because you didn't sit there and put a heavy enough line on your rod. All that happens, so it kind of correlates, and it has to do with patience. You have to be patient to do whatever you do, right? And as we say in the sports world, is you see a little, you see a lot. You see a lot, you see a little. And it comes down to fishing. When you're looking at the whole spectrum, like, oh, there's so much going on, you see this, you see nothing. But when you see a little, like the little details of everything, you can catch more stuff. You open to more stuff, you open to more tricks to do something.
So that's what you would say in football, when you see a little, you see a lot?
Correct.
That's and so explain that in a football way, like you did in fishing, but how would you like what would that what's a place where you first understood that concept? When you see a little, you see a lot in football.
Well, in football, it goes down to, so when you think about it, it's hard to determine how to say this, but it's in this way. When you see a little, that means you're looking at certain objects, right? The man in front of you, the person next to him, right? When you see a lot, you're looking at everything. Like I'm
Mm,
looking at the whole line, I'm looking at the wide receiver, I'm looking at the running back, and the quarterback. What is the tight end doing? You're seeing too much. That means too much is going on in your head. It's just spinning, so you're not really paying attention to what you're focused on. So when you see a little, you just focus on the man in front of you, the person next to you, the person next to him. So it's this little box, right? So
mhm,
when you see a little, that means you can understand what's fully going on because they all got a role to do. Right. So that tight end gets up and moves back in the backfield. And I see that. I'm like, okay, he must be motioning or he's coming across. It's just seeing a little of it. But if I'm seeing the big picture, it's like, oh, he got off, he's moving his hand, something's going on. It is spins so much. You need your brain to be calm, right? And when you look at the best athletes in the world and when they go play, everything's calm. The
mhm,
game is slow because they're seeing what they need to see. It's like when you write notes for coming to a game, you'll see people with 5, 6 pages of notes. Well, that's so much information that you don't need. So you just put down to reflect like what's important to me. And this is what's important to me. And once I get to know this, it correlates from game to game to game. So you're seeing a little on your paper, and you're seeing a little on the film, and it just opens your eyes to a whole nother world. So as the game starts, it's slower.
mhm. That's interesting because, like, so many times, uh, when you get into a different level of competition, it could be in fishing, it could be in football, everything's moving so fast.
Hmm.
You just can't even imagine how I've never heard it said that way. When you see a little, you see a lot, but the same correlation could be, for a fishing guide that's watching all of this stuff happen, and there's birds and there's wind and there's everything, but you see this one tiny little fish behavior that tells you, okay, they're doing this or they're not doing this, or we're wasting our time, or we have hit the jackpot, when everyone else is like, there's just so much going on, but I've never heard it said that way before. When you see a little, you see a lot. That's pretty cool. Because I can see what you're talking about with football. I mean, on the NFL playing field, I would imagine it would be hard for a regular person to imagine how fast things are happening out there. You have literally a field full of super athletes that are all faster than anyone else you've ever seen before, no matter how big they are, and everything is moving so fast. How long did it take you for like for things to slow down to where you really felt like, okay, I understand what's going on here, and I'm where you're seeing a little, you're seeing a lot.
Well, it comes with this experience. As they say, you talk to any athlete comes into the game of any sport, not professionally, they'll tell you how fast it is, right? And as you get older in the game, it slows down. So as it starts slowing down, you're like, okay, this is what I'm doing. So it took, I want to say, to year 4, the game really slowed down to a level where I'm like, oh, this ain't as fast. But that goes to the fact that I can't watch high school football because it's slow. If I know somebody, I'll watch them, but it's just so slow. Like St. Louis college football is slow, and you can tell the difference between, like, as they say, Georgia, Alabama, Ohio. What's the difference? It's the speed that they're playing at, right?
Mhm.
The other competition is slower, so they already got another hand, but it's still another level of speed. As after we tell rookies coming in training camp, I'm like, hey, I said training camp is slow. Like they're going to pick up the speed when it comes to regular season. And what do you mean? I said it's a whole nother speed because nobody's really going full speed in training camp. The majority is 60, 70% because they're not trying to get hurt. There's some players that go full speed and you could tell, but it's a lot, about 80 to 60%, depending on what position, or slowing it down. Then when it gets to regular season, it speeds up a whole nother level. Then when it goes to playoff, it gets faster. And when you tell people this, it's like, hey, how's it during playoffs? It's a lot faster in regular season. And it takes time, right? And that's it. As you get older, you understand the game a little bit better. You see less things and you just kind of get characteristics from team to team. You actually can play a little bit faster. When you play a little bit faster, stuff just happens. Like I said, you see that tight end get up and move. Like there's only 3-4 things that he could really do. And it all depends on where the quarterback is at. And I'm like, okay, the quarterback is here. He only could do 2 things. And like, so it's you're seeing a little. And you're like, well, I just saw him get up. So he only could do 2 things if the quarterback's on the center, if he's in the shotgun. Then I'm like, well, then I know what block I'm going to get. I'm like, this is the only thing you could do. And it kind of just slows down. And you're like, oh, I could play faster. I could play confidence. And I think confidence play a role in everything, right? And that's the same thing with fishing. Confidence plays a role in everything. If you're confident in what you're doing, you're going to have fun out there. You'll enjoy it. But if you're not, you're going to sit there and get frustrated, blame the reel, throw it, cut your line with a backwash, do everything that you think about doing when you're just flustered, pretty much.
Yeah, that's a good comparison. Do you find that, like, when you leave an ultra competitive career, where you're at the highest level, and you move into a regular life, like, is fishing kind of filling any sort of a void there, that you don't have the competition, you don't have the practice? Like, does fishing fill any void for you?
I think fishing is fun at this point. I got 4 kids, so I'm always on toes with the 4 kids, and I'm doing everything there. But when it comes down to fishing, I just enjoy it, right? I enjoy the experience. I enjoy the like I said, the process of going through it. And as you said, once you enjoy what you're doing, time just flies, right? Um, I don't have a lot of time on my hands because of all the kids I have. But when I do, it's just a calm period of doing that. That's why I say I enjoy it. Like I've been in the golf. I've done multiple stuff. I went fishing on a fresh repair bicep one time, but that's an interesting story to tell you.
Oh, well, let's hear it.
Just got my bicep cut on, so they cut the tip off my bicep up here. They
Right now? This is now or a long time ago?
2017.
Okay.
After the first Super Bowl I went to, and I got offered to go spin shark fishing, and it was the catch and release. And I was like, okay, let's do it. We went to Tampa, went out there at 5 in the morning. We're going, and they're like, oh, you fish? I said, yes, I do fish, and it's going to be a good time. But I was like, I didn't tell them this had surgery. I'm like 8 weeks out of surgery, and this is like it's fully healed at 8 weeks. I'm like, I'm on a boat, but going, and I caught a 800-pound grouper, and I'm sitting there for probably like a good 40 minutes, and we reeling it in, trying to do it on his bicep, and in my head, I'm just like, I think my arm is healed, but I might get in trouble if somebody sees this show. Be doing this, and when it's going and going, he's like, "Oh man, how long you been fishing?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, I've been fishing this whole time." It's like, "Cool." Like, you're struggling. I'm like, "Yeah." And we're sitting there, and I get back to the doctor. I was like, "Yeah, I just had eye surgery."
Oh man,
fresh off of this, he was like, "Wow." He said, "This is why it's taking you so long." I said, "Yeah." I said, then he kept going into the wreck, and we're just going. And I got one point where my arm is just done tired, and I gave it to the other guy. I said, "You got a chance, man." It surfaced, it dove. I said, "I can't do it at this point." He 30 minutes getting it back up. And I'm just sitting there like, it ain't me, is it? He said, "Yeah, but you're stronger." I said, "Yeah, I am." But it was a difficult day.
Well, I'll tell you what, that's a good tester to see if the surgery worked.
2%.
Those Goliaths, they're serious. I mean, they really are. They're serious for anybody, but certainly with a compromised bicep. 8 weeks out of surgery, and then did you ever have another problem with your bicep?
No, it was fine.
So that one surgery, you tore it at the top, and then you had to have surgery on it. How long were you out?
No, I wasn't.
You weren't. You played hurt.
Yeah, no, I tore that at the beginning of the season, going into the fourth preseason game. It was I remember I woke up and I couldn't lift my arm one day, and we had a joint practice with somebody, and Bill was like, "Hey man, we're done practicing. You guys don't take this day off." I said, "Thank God." I don't know what's going on with my arm, but I can't lift it. And we did an MRI to say, yeah, where it's torn at the ligament, at the top of your ligament, and it's hanging on there with threads. And I said, all right. And then like, that's it. I said, yep. I said, I got to keep going. And I played that whole season with it.
Wow.
And I got the surgery right after that Super Bowl, the week after. I got the surgery. Then 8 weeks after that, I was on the boat fishing.
How many of the NFL players that we're seeing on TV on any given Sunday are playing with injuries like that?
Everybody.
Everybody's
out there is dealing with something. I never met a person that has not had something going on, because it could be something small, right? It could be like, well, my quads is hurting all year. I don't know what to do. And we tape it up. You do treatment. Then not after the season, like it's still bothering me by walking. You get an MRI, boom, you have a small tear in there nobody knew about. So you're going to deal with shoulders, fingers, elbows, knees, backs. There's always somebody dealing with something. Nobody's 100%. And I remember people used to say, "What about the kickers?" And I said, nobody's healthy, because when you look at top of the line kickers, their plant leg hurts more than their kicking leg because they're putting so much force into the ground, so they start tearing up the knee, they start tearing up their hips. And then like what they jam their toe and it constantly gets hit. The only person that will possibly be healthy is the trainer.
Is the trainer?
Sometimes the coaches look
like,
at coaches,
even the backup quarterbacks, like that they're the practice team, right? And they're dealing with the same thing.
Yeah, they're throwing consistently every single day. They got to come out early and throw, so their shoulders are aching. Because if you think about the number one quarterback is doing all his reps and everything, right? Then you got the person behind him doing scout team, doing, hey, this person needs to get a little bit more reps, staying after practice, throwing some more, taking the reps off to number one, and number one's still doing this. So it's a consistent thing. The only difference between a number one quarterback and probably the backup is if one plays in the game on Sunday, the other one does it. But we're talking about 60 rep difference of that and getting physically hit.
Right.
That's a big aspect of it. But they still have those injuries where you're throwing and your elbows hurting, something like this. Cold outside, so your shoulders arthritic. It has an issue. It's nobody really healthy. You even look at the coaches. They're standing out there and you see them pacing because their back is killing them.
Yeah.
They're standing consistently for 4 or 5 hours.
Sure.
It never stops. They never sit. They never do something. So it's a very tasking sport to play overall.
Of course. How did you get started in football? Were you always a football player?
No. What happened was my brother was playing, and when I got to high school, I did pop one for 2 years, and it was terrible. I'm not an offensive lineman. Like I was done. But when I got to high school, my brother was playing, and he was just like, "Hey man, we're gonna have to come out here and do this." And I was like, "Sure." So I don't got nothing else to do, and I went from there. Then I did the 3 sports. For a lineman, you do wrestling, so I did
Nice.
football, wrestling, and track. Right. Then as I got older, I don't like people touching my ears because that's how you get the cauliflower ear.
Yeah, I know.
Had it, and I said, you can't touch my ear, man. That's just too much going on. I stopped wrestling and I just did track. And when I mean track, I ran track because I wanted to get my speed up
Huh.
For the football. So it kind of worked its way out, and I let her. for 3 years. So I was a 3-year letter in 3 sports and 2 letter in for my senior year for 2 sports.
Nice. So, how long did you wrestle? That was my sport. I was a wrestler.
Yeah. Only did 3 years. Again, I couldn't do the ear thing. I had to wear headgear at
Yeah.
practice. They're like, well, I said, bro, I was like, your ears look terrible. I said, I don't want
So
this.
it was the look or the pain? Because cauliflower ear is not fun either. It hurts.
Will look, and it was the pain. Because I asked him, I said, what happens? And he's like, "That's take a needle in there, and they got to drain it."
Yeah.
Oh, he got it drained one time, and I was like, bro, I said, "Oh, it's terrible." Then from there, I don't want this. And I was good at wrestling. That was the crazy thing. I was a really good wrestler. It's just I just I didn't like it as much as I liked every other sport out there. So I was just like just over it.
What was the track event that you liked?
I loved the 100.
The 100.
Yeah, I loved it. My brother ran track. He went to TCU on a full ride for the 400, and so I was already out there. Then we did a shot put, a terrible discus, and well, I mean terrible. They took that disc away from me.
Mm.
As I was throwing it, it was 50-50 that it went straight.
Uh-huh.
And I remember it was at practice and at a meet, and I threw it and hit the football goalpost.
Oh, no.
You see how it's all lined up in those
Yeah.
things. There's no way to hit it. I was like, this is telling me I shouldn't do this anymore. Like
We had the Olympic gold medalist Ryan Krauser on, the discus thrower and shot putter, and man, that guy is a serious athlete too. What those guys do, that take it to the high level in the field sports. I mean, he's training a lot and eating a ton. I mean, his diet that we talked about to support a powerful athlete like that is incredible. You, as you're playing football, has your diet changed since you've stopped?
well, it didn't because I just did 2 months in Cincinnati this year. So that those 8 weeks there, I mean 4 weeks there, or no 8 weeks there. I'm sorry. It is maintained. And when you look at it, I try to maintain everything that I'm doing. I try to stay out of weight. Because I've gotten calls, hey, you want to come do this? You want to come here? And I'm like, not really. I said, I want to do this for these guys. I ain't trying to do that. So I was able at this point in my life is to pick where I want to go and how I want to do it on my terms. So I've been staying at a certain weight. But once I'm officially just retired and everything does change. Because for bigger guys, we have to lose weight. It's better for our hearts. So we drop the weight down. So again, some people don't. Some people balloon up. I have had friends that went from 300 to 360, and they're like, "Well, I got to lose weight." I say, "Yeah." I say, "You got to lose weight." I've seen people go from 320 to 240.
Yeah, I've seen that a lot with big athletes, and then after they stop playing, they just go down to, they look like a regular person.
Yeah.
And you see people and they're like, yeah, I was an offensive lineman in the NFL. You're like, you were? Like, they don't look like it now. And he's like, yeah, well, I was 100 pounds heavier. And you put 100 pounds on that guy, could be an offensitive lineman, I guess. But
Like the Pouncey twins did it, and Marshall Yanda did it, and some other offensive linemen did it. But I have this theory. So the big guys get smaller, and the small guys get big. So you start looking at the old running backs, you're like, oh, you got big. The tight ends, what happened? And then you go see the offensive lineman, like, so you went the opposite way. There's like, it's always happened. The bigger guys always eat more to stay out of playing weight, and they just drop it. And those little guys, that's a specialist, they eat so much. So once they're done, they start getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I'm like, I said, look at the tables turn. I said, now you're in my shoes.
Yeah, that's interesting. Ryan, I asked him about what his favorite cheat meal was, and he said, my favorite cheat meal is to not eat a meal, because he's, those guys that they're trying to maintain this weight that's unnatural. Their body doesn't want to be there, but they're training so much and they're so heavy that they have to, cram it in. And he was like, the best thing I can do, the cheat I can do, is to not eat.
Yeah, that's right. Like I got in trouble one day for not eating. It's just like what happened? I just don't, I'm not hungry. Then like you got to eat. So like I showed up once a little too light to training camp. I was 3:04, and I was supposed to be 3:15. And they're like, "You're," I said, "What's?" They're like, "What's going on?" I said, "Nothing." They're like, "You got to go eat." I am eating. He said, "No, you got to go eat something else that's heartier." And I'm like, "Oh," I said, "I really don't want to do this right now, but if I have to, I will."
Yeah, I mean that's the worst. It's like for regular people, it's imagining eating a Thanksgiving dinner and then having to eat another one. Like you don't want to. It's a
Correct.
terrible thing.
No, nobody wants to. Well, no, Thanksgiving is different. Thanksgiving is on one of those things that you're supposed to. Was it you're supposed to eat it around? We had this discussion at home that you're supposed to eat it around like 2, 3. My
Uh-huh.
wife, like, it's Thanksgiving dinner. You eat at 7. And I was like, how do you get your second plate? Um,
That's right.
and she was like, well, you don't. You eat what you got right now. And I was like, I get it. I said, but how am I supposed to go into a food coma, wake up out of my food coma, and eat again? I can
That's
only eat one plate. And to this day, I just had to see a relative for a family issue. And if my little cousin, I want to call him my little cousin, he's about 25 now. And he looked at me, he said, so you gonna make a U-size plate? He said, what you mean? He said, I know how your plates look. And he said, and you don't eat it all. And I said, I don't know what you're talking about. And I made a plate, said, this is what I'm talking about. You just packed all the stuff on this plate. You ain't gonna eat none of it. But it looks good.
So we did have a couple of questions here. What obviously everybody wants to know what it's like to play with Tom Brady. What's your if somebody, I'm sure that people ask you that all the time. You probably get sick of people asking you that. But what was it like to play with Tom Brady?
It was great. Tom's very personable. So as soon as I walked in the building, he knew my name, knew everything about me, and he does that with everybody. He's not one of those people that is better than you because he's done this. He's one of those people that will sit there and break bread with you at the table. If you're sitting there, he's not going to let people sit alone. He's going to have a good conversation with you. He's going to uplift you. He's very competitive, as you saw. He does the I'm gonna be better than you and this thing and this and that. So it's great in my world, right? And
Mhm.
the football world is amazing because you always want competition. Everything's a competition. There's nothing that's not a competition. If it's lifting weights, it's a competition. If it's jumping, it's a competition. And he's one of the most competitive people that you'll meet, and it's a great feeling to see that because you get to trash talk. You get to go back in the locker room, pull out the iPad, show different things. And he's one of those people that's a good sport about it. He doesn't get emotional about it. Well, we this could have done that. You did that. No, he just takes it and just keeps on going. And I think that's what made him a great teammate.
Does he like to fish?
I'm not sure.
You, who would you fish with in the league?
What if I had a choice of fishing with somebody in the league right now? It would be David Andrews.
Does he is he a fisherman?
He's a fisherman. Him and Ted Karras fish a lot. Ted Karras' family holds a fishing event every single year.
What kind of fishing do they do?
Um, they're deep water, so they
Okay.
go out through deep water. They do some trolling here and there. It's just one of those things that every time he invited me on the fishing trip, I couldn't do it because it was my daughter's birthday.
Uh,
Can't miss a birthday to go on a fishing trip. I would love to go. I said, well, how about you just switch the date? He said, we can't switch the date. It's been going on for years. I was like, okay. I said, I could have tried.
yeah.
But it's just one of those things. There's so many people that fish in the league, fish and hunt. You know how that goes. But a lot of my friends buy houses that are on a lake or
Mhm.
they're on a pond. They just go in the back. I had a friend that stocked his whole lake with catfish, gill, bass, and other stuff. And he was just like, I just want to go out there, let them populate, and have a good time. And he's doing the same thing, catch and release. Um, so it's just one of those things. I don't know what it is. It's probably one of those whole manly things that people do. Like, what do you do? We fish, hunt.
I
Uh,
don't know. I don't know. I think in my experience, I'm certainly not an NFL athlete, but I have taken a lot of NFL athletes fishing and a lot of other athletes and former athletes fishing, and when I had a client on my boat that was really into it and they were good at it, and you could tell that they were like wanted to be a good fisherman, I
Mhm.
would usually ask them, what's your athletic background? Because I'm interested. I was an athlete in high school, and a lot of them said they were wrestlers. A lot of the best ones. The
Mhm.
best ones said that they had a wrestling background. There were a lot of football players. There were a lot of other athletes there. But I do think that fishing, especially for wrestlers, wrestling is like physical chess. Football could be like physical chess, right? Like you're a defensive end and you got to get around this guy. You can do it in a lot of different ways. There you can there's a lot of different ways to do it. And so you're kind of playing chess. Wrestling is definitely physical chess. And I think fishing is like physical chess. Like,
Mhm.
and I think that there's a lot of things that go on in an athlete's mind that in a different way, and it might be hard to relate to a non-athlete, but in a different way, I think that you can get a lot of the same things out of fishing. And it seems like a lot of other people feel the same way, that there's something that fishing is doing for you, figuring out this problem that you have in front of you. There are fish there, maybe you can see them and they don't want to bite. Okay, well, we're going to try something else. We're going to try this, we're going to try that, we're going to try smaller line, we're going to try smaller lures, we're going to go to the other side, we're going to try, all these different ways that you can try fishing for them, different bait, different things. I think that in some way that might be not a one-to-one relationship, but I think a lot of athletics are the same kind of way. You're not, this person is too big and strong for you to get around. Does that mean you can't do it, or you just can't do it that way? Right? Like there's another way that you might be able to do it. And I think that that's a lot of what's interesting about fishing is like these fish don't want to bite.
Mhm.
Well, maybe not right now, or maybe not the way that you're trying to do it, but there is a way. And I think that for me anyway, figuring those things out kind of fills a lot of the void that I had, that competition for me filled. Like,
Mhm.
you're going up against somebody that has more experience than you, that's stronger than you. But does that mean that you're just not going to win? No, you could figure out a way to win.
Yeah.
Just kind of like fishing. I don't know, especially in some types of a lot of the types of fishing that we were doing were like sight fishing for bonefish and fly fishing for bonefish or permit or tarpon or something like that, to where now you have tackle that really shouldn't be able to land this giant fish, but you can learn these different techniques and you can land a really really big fish on really really light tackle. Kind of, you could make some comparisons to athletics, but it seemed like a lot of the people that were really really into it had a background and in high level sports.
Yeah, I could agree with you like in that way because, like you said, it's all about the process, of the patience of it. Like you said, the tricks of different styles of fishing. Like that, say you go to someone that's been fishing for over 60 years, and they might do something that's weird, and you're like, "Oh, I never thought about this." You're like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, this is how you can cast a fish," and like the way the water is flowing. Like we know we have to cast our rod this way at this angle and flip our rod upside down and do a little trick to it, and it's just craftiness, right?
Hmm.
At the end of the day, it's all about craftiness. And when it comes to sports, when it comes to this, it's crafting. You build your craft, and from as I said, from sports, you have to build a craft to be at the level that you are. And when you fishing, you're building a craft every day to learn new things. And as you said, it might not be the right bait on there. It might not be the right rod. You might have. It might be the way the wind is blowing. There's always something different out there that you have to adjust to. And it might not be your day.
Right.
And you could just go out there like, hey, it ain't my day, so let me try something I haven't tried before. And you kind of just create something in your own style.
Hmm. For athletes, young athletes, grammar school, high school, how do you think that fishing could help athletes in any sport, to be better athletes?
It's the patience.
Hmm.
I think I said this before earlier. It's just the patience that you have to be out there. I could sit out there for 4 hours and not catch nothing. but the time just flies by because I'm just patient. And when it comes to sports in a whole, people just the adrenaline is rushing. They just want to go, 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 go. And the most patient person is always the better person and understands what's going on around them. So when you get into fishing, you get into the skill set of it, and you start realizing not everything might work for you, right? Um, like I like to throw a left-handed rod out there. I'm right-handed. I
Hmm.
don't know why. I just love left-handed rods. It's just, and I have right-handed rods just because I have to learn with it. But I do something opposite than I'm supposed to do, and it's something that's just unique to me. And I'm like, this is what happens when you come to something that's different. You're like, let me learn how to do it my way, then go from there and continue to do it to a point where I build that craft. When it comes to sports, you might not be able to do it the way somebody else is doing it. You might not be able to do it the way that they're showing you how to do it. You have to find a way how to accomplish that goal in your way. And not every athlete, every person is not the same. We're all unique individuals. And when it comes to a sport or something that is challenging, you have to figure that out in your way and adapt to what they're asking you to do. And that's why I like fishing, because again, I don't fish with a right-handed pole. I fish with a left-handed pole, and people are like, why do you do that? And I'm like, I don't know. It's just the way I've been doing it for years, and it's just my way. Same thing when it comes to playing football, basketball, baseball. You might not be able to pitch, you might not be able to shoot, or you might not be able to run a route the way that everybody else does, but you have a unique style to it, and that makes you a unique person.
And so how do you use all of those things when you're trying to teach your kids certain lessons about life and you take them fishing?
When I take my son fishing or my daughter fishing, I don't tell them, "Hey, you're doing the wrong way." I just let them. I show them the way I do, and I like, you have to figure out how you want to do this. And once you do that, we could work off that skill. And it's not something that's like, if like my son likes to cast sidearm, and I like to catch overhead. And every time he casts sidearm, I was like, I'm gonna learn how to do it. Just because you're doing it, I have to figure out how to do it to show you how to do it in a better way and improve your skills. And that's how when I learned. Like, I don't ever tell them, "Hey, you're doing it the wrong way. This is not how you're supposed to do it." I'm like, "How do you want to do it?" And let's learn from that aspect of it, right? That comes from tying shoes. I do the bunny ears. My wife does the loop, and I learned how to do the loop when I broke my thumb one year. I was like, I have to learn how to do the loop, and then my daughter does it a different way. I'm like, nothing's right or wrong, but we could work on the way that you need to know how to do it to improve that, so you can master that skill. And I take that from every aspect in life, from fishing to sports to every single day with my kids. I don't like to say, "Hey, you're doing it the wrong way." Let me figure out why you're doing it this way, and let me work that way into how to improve it.
Hmm, interesting. From your looking back on your entire career, all the way back to when you first started sports, was there a particular coach that stands out that was the most important to you?
Um, there was a whole bunch of coaches, um, from early on to the NFL. I can't just name one or two. Everybody had a role in what I am today and how I do it. Um, but I can tell you this: there's a couple of coaches that are very honest, and I love that they're so honest with me. Don Johnson, he was the D line coach for the Chargers when I was there. He passed away, and when I got in the league, it was a lot of favoritism. But when I got to him, he didn't care. He's just like, "Hey, this is how we're going to do it. This is what we got to do. I'm just going to tell you the ins and outs." So, like, I know the ins and outs of the NFL, from the office down to being a player, and I got to enjoy that from learning it from people, right? And he was one of those people that just told me straight off the back, he's like, "Hey, this is what's occurring. This is what this person said to you. This was the person said, don't trust this, don't trust that." And he was probably the first person that was truly honest with me, when it got to the NFL, and I praise him for that. And I'm like, because you could teach me skill, you could teach me how to go run this, do the play, but if the politics of it is a little too much, somebody has to show you that way. And he's one of those people that really opened my eyes to the politics of the NFL, and I thanked him for that. From years on, I saw him again when I was in New England, and we practiced against the Panthers here as a pass rush specialist, and I just thanked him. I said, "Thank you for opening my eyes to a point where I needed to be open." Because, like I said, I could teach you anything, and you could learn that, but if you don't know the politics of what's going on, that skill set doesn't matter.
Are there a lot of players that are really, really good, but don't learn the politics and fade out of the NFL that should be?
100%.
Yeah.
It happens a lot. Anything that has a politics to it, I met players that were excellent, and all of a sudden you're just like, how didn't you make the team? And this other person's making it, and I can't explain to them. And I remember when I was younger on and getting a phone call from one of my older heads, and he said, "I just don't understand what's going on." I said, "I don't either." And as I got older, I understood everything. And so when I get those phone calls, I'm like, I understand, but there's something to be learned. There's something you could do more. But it happens so often. The professional sports, it's a 3-year sport in reality. That's the life expectancy of it. And they made it now where you could play a little bit longer. But it's an average of 3 years, and some of it has to do with, well, this person likes you a little bit more. This person drafts you. This person did this. It doesn't mean that you're not better than him. It's just his name holds a little bit weight because this person needs him to be successful because of what he did with him.
Mm.
That happens more often than people ever talk about, but it's just the nature of the business.
Right.
It's a business at the end of the day.
Yeah. Do you think that? Do you think you need a fishing coach?
Oh, 100%. When teach me some new tricks, I'm always up to learning some new tricks when it comes to fishing. That's the best thing about it. It is nothing that you can't learn. So I want to go fly fishing. I don't know what it is. I want to go do it because it seems fun, getting in the water, throwing it out, and everything. But when it comes down to fishing, like, I don't see why people won't do that.
Do what?
You learn from your elders. You learn from people that have been doing it for a long time. Nobody has a full grasp of what they're doing. You get to be a little bit better. Like, I ain't speaking for you, but I bet if you go to somebody that's been doing a certain way of fishing that you haven't done, and you're like, "Hey, that's unique." I said, "I've never done before. Let me try it out and see what happens." And you just kind of just enjoy it and learn from it. And I think that's the best thing about fishing. There's no perfect way of doing it, but there's always little tricks or something like that. Somebody might tell you, like, throw a little dirt on the worm real quick, hook it here. This does this if you put that on there. It's always something new.
There's always something. There's always something. That's what I think that so many people like the most about fishing. Pretty much every time you think you got it figured out, you really get it handed to you. For the most part, and fishing has a way of humbling you. I think what's one of the things that's interesting about fishing that's also similar to some types of sports is that fishing is mostly failure when you think about it. Like, you're going out there and you're making cast after cast after cast, or you make one cast and it sits there for a long time before anything happens. Or, you're going to a spot, to another spot, to another spot, and finally it all comes together and it happens. But in the scheme of things, and the number of productive casts or the number of productive spots that you hit, or things that actually work, it's less than a batting average. Like it's really low. Like, you make 100 casts and you catch one fish.
Yeah.
Well, if you catch a really big fish, that's a huge success, right? There's a lot of lessons in that too that I tried to pass on to the kids. Is like, if you go out there and you don't catch anything, it's not a failure. Did you learn something? Like, you either if you learn something, then it's a success. And if you could come back and say, "Oh, well, the wind's blowing this way. Last time we went over there, we didn't catch anything. So this time we're going to go and do something else, and maybe we catch something." So now you learned on that wind, you did this thing. You go the other side, or to the other way. I don't know. I think that's interesting. But the fishing coach, I think the fishing coach analogy is, basically fishing guides are fishing coaches if you get a good one.
Yes.
And you can have a bad coach in football, and you can have a great coach in football, one that'll change the trajectory of your life. But you can also have somebody that doesn't. Fishing guides are no different. You can go out with somebody that really doesn't care much, and they're not a very good fishing guide, and you come away with nothing. Maybe you caught a couple of fish, but you really didn't learn anything, and it wasn't even that much fun. Or you can go fishing with somebody else, and they teach you stuff all day long, and you had a good time. And maybe you didn't catch anything, but you learned a ton, and it changed the trajectory of your fishing career from that point forward. So I don't know. I think fishing coaches are just guides for the most part, good guides.
No, I agree with you. Like as we always said, there's no such thing as success without failure. So if
Hmm.
you want to go out there, like you say, you're gonna cast 100 times, catch one fish on that at all, like means nothing. That means you just still got something to go do it. The worst thing you could do is just give up and throw the rod on the floor. Like I'm just gonna walk away. Then you just failed at everything, and you just don't want to be successful. So it's just one of those things, though. Like I said, I think a coach is a guide, and that's what it is. They're guiding you to a level of success through process, of failure, of reward, but there's no reward without the failure.
Interesting. All right, one final question. You start out playing football. You're obviously very good at it. Where'd you go to college to play football, by the way?
Arizona State.
Okay, so you go to Arizona State, then you get into the NFL. The ultimate goal of anyone that ever picks up a football is to be a Super Bowl champion.
Hmm.
When you accomplish that, what can you describe that feeling of being at the absolute top of that profession and defying all the odds to get there?
You know, that's one of those things that when people like everybody has a different experience of it, and everybody has a different feeling. Um, my feeling was so great. Not only did I got to share it or experience it with my brothers on that field, but my daughter was one, my wife was pregnant, and I got to experience it with her, right? And one of our best photos is me and her kissing Lambard before everybody else got to it, because once it goes down that line, it gets a little nasty. This slob, you're like, oh man, like this is nasty. And I remember Vince Wilfork had it, and we were at the beginning of the line, and you could see me and her kissing on Lombardi, which is a special event. Then we got to see everybody else do it, and he was like, "Oh," I said, "That's a lot of lips on that one spot." I said, "I don't know if they think that or not." I said, "I think this is a bad idea," but it's a joyful experience because you might get there once in your career. You might not ever get there. I've had friends that I played 14, 15 years that have never been to a playoff game or never even won a Super Bowl. So it's one in a lifetime experiences, and I got to go to two, so I know the feeling of losing one, right? Like I lost one, broke a thumb, had a torn bicep ball all in the same thing, and I was like, man, I lost this game, but then I got to win it. So the joy of that, the joy of spending with my family, with my daughter, is something I can never take back. And I bring the sits in the safe somewhere. I don't really bring it out. Then people say, "Can I see it?" I'm like, "Sure," and it's massive. Like the ring's massive, and I'm like, it's one of those things that their emotion is so uplifting, then it goes away the next year. It's like, oh, we're over again. Let's see if we could do this again. But it's one of those one in a lifetime experiences. And I have friends that introduce themselves as so and so Super Bowl champ, and I was like, maybe I should do this. But it's a very humbling thing to go through because next year is not going to be given. It's not given that you're playing, it's not given that you're going to go back. So you just try to embrace that. You try to go to the locker room. I got all my stuff. I got my shoulder pads, I got my helmet, I got the pants, I got the cleats, the gloves, and the pads to go in your pants. They're all here because they're like, I remember the equipment guy like, take everything because you might not ever come back here. So if you want it, let me know. I'll bag it up for you. You can send it to your house, and it's all sitting. I've been using the same pads my whole career, and
Really?
I just got them back, and I was like, they're just sitting. I think they're sitting somewhere downstairs, and it's just one of those things that is great. I have a buddy. He bought a mannequin. He put his whole Super Bowl outfit on the mannequin, and it's just a special moment that you might never see or might never get, you can see on TV. and knowing that everybody's there watching you, everybody's there cheering for you, and the graffiti getting shot off, and it's just so amazing. It's hard to imagine, but it's like that feeling that when you see somebody for the first time and you get the goosebumps and you get
Mhm.
chills. That's how it feels when you see those cannons just shoot off.
And you've been I mean, as a kid, you dream about that. I don't know. I would just think that that's an incredible thing because every kid that picks up a football dreams of being, in the Super Bowl, and then you're actually there. But I don't know. If you ask so many athletes, like I remember there was one Olympics and Michael Phelps won something, and they said, the reporter asked, did you ever imagine that you would be here? And he said, yeah, every night. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, that's what I do. I imagine that I'm gonna be here every single night. That's how you get there, I guess. I don't know. But it just seems like a super surreal moment with the Super Bowl. Like, just like the way that you described it is pretty cool.
Because with football, remember that's a team sport.
Yeah.
The individuals could get somewhere really fast. In basketball, individual could take over a game. In football, individual can't take over a game. It takes a whole team to do it. That's
Mhm.
why it makes it so much more joyful and so much more special. It took all 60 to 70 players from practice squad all the way to the active roster to get to this point. And that's why it's just one of those things that like you can say like they say when you go to Olympics, I know I'm going to get there, and you don't know you're going to get there because
Right.
there might be a penalty, it might be an injury. I saw a man break his arm in the middle of the Super Bowl. Like, oh, like I said, it ain't gonna matter, and it mattered. And when we lost, we were like, oh, that injury mattered. So it's just one of those things. Is I remember the first one I didn't cherish it as much, and I said, like, oh, we're here. This is awesome. I knew we were going to come here with New England. We knew about the season. Like, okay. Then that second one, you just kind of cherish it more. Like, I'm not might not ever get back here. It takes a full team effort, sacrifices to get to this point and go through injuries to injuries and see can we actually win it and enjoy the moment.
Wow. That's pretty awesome, man. That's pretty awesome. So, now, is your focus on being a dad?
Right now, it's there. Like it, my focus always been on being a dad. I'm one of the biggest family people around me, and like it was always kids first. I brought my kids into the facility, did the treatment with them to the field. Always made sure that my kids were always number one in my life. Because, like I said, I played this sport for me, my family, and everything. But I wanted my kids to experience it with me as they got older.
Mhm.
Experience going in there. The footballs, the helmets. Every kid has a helmet. Something for they could go back and like I did this with my dad. I got to experience this, and I think we kind of get away with it a little bit when we just it just kind of just skips by in life. And I just wanted to make sure they get it. So my family's always been number one on my list of what can I do with them, how can I improve them, and how can I make these memories with them because there's something that we can't get back are the memories.
That's right. Well, fishing's an awesome way to do it, and certainly the football is too. But it's cool. You got a great thing going on. Really happy to have had an opportunity to talk to you. Maybe we can go fishing one day.
100%. I can't wait. Um, I'm just saying, I haven't broken a rod yet, but this feeling that you're like, hey, I'm gonna show you some new tricks, and I'm like, all right, cool. I ain't bringing my rods, so
Well, you need to bring your kids down to Hawks Cay, and we'll get you out on the boat and catch maybe some new species.
that sounds fun to me. I know they have a thrill with that one. My
Yeah.
son's been begging me to go on a boat and go fishing. I said, we've been trolling before. He said, yeah. I said, yeah, it was boring. So we pulled it up and we left.
There's so much to do, outside of trolling, though. A lot of people, that's the first kind of thought, saltwater fishing, trolling. But we fish, like a lot like what you do in your backyard, like mangroves, stuff under the mangroves, bonefish, redfish, sharks, everything mostly that I guided for the most of my guide career I saw before we cast to it. Like, so it's almost like hunting, it's clear water, you see the fish, you throw to it, which is good for kids. But there's also plenty of species where there's just a lot of action. Like, you're gonna keep the rod bent. Jacks, mackerels, different things like that lend themselves to high action. And then you have the other fish that are high skill, that lend themselves to low action, but you catch one big one like a tarpon or something like that. Not the best for kids, but good for you. Anyway, Lawrence, thanks so much. If people want to follow you and they want to see more about you, where can you send them?
Thatlguy.com. That L guy on Instagram, Twitter. I kept that tag for years. It's very simple.
That L guy.
Correct.
There you go. All right. So everywhere you can see that. And awesome. Well, I hope it's kind of cold today. Is it cold where you are right now?
100%. It was windy. Let me see. It was windy and cold. Let me see. It's 56.
56. Today. I don't think that the peacock bass like that. I don't know a lot about peacock bass, but I know enough to know that that's a tropical species that does not like 56 degrees.
I went out there today and I told my little man, I said, hey, but we could cast out maybe tomorrow. And he looked at me and said, all right, cool. I went out there and I said, I don't see nothing, bro. I don't see nothing. I said, I don't know.
They huddle up.
And then I said, we could throw it and we put some weights on it and just drag the ground real quick and see if we can find something. But I ain't nothing going to bite right now.
So 56 where you are, can you believe that they had snow in the Panhandle, like on the beaches?
It blows my mind because now I'm thinking about it. Like if it's snowing and it is actually sticking to the ground.
Yeah.
If you go on the beach and it's sticking, are you throwing sandballs or snowballs?
You're throwing a combination of both. That would not be a good snowball fight. It'd be sand in the eye and a cold ice ball on your face. It wouldn't
be like it was splatting. Like, what's going on here? I got
from Florida. Don't have enough experience to throw to make a good snowball without getting sand in it. You're gonna get sand in it anyway.
100% gonna get sand in it. Might get a rock here or two.
Or a shell. Yeah, you would do that. All right, Lawrence. Well, I hope it warms up. I hope you get out there with your kids and catch some fish. And I want to thank you for coming on the show. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Had fun.
All right. See ya. All right, we'll be back with another great guest just like Lawrence next week. And hope you'll tune in. Check out the YouTube channel, Tom Rowland Podcast, full length. Follow that channel. And as always, we'll be back next week with a live on all the socials. So if you were on Instagram, we saw you. Facebook.